way they hate. And I know better than to listen to the people who are calling us names. I can feel the sunlight shining.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Brian, and today is Thursday, July 4th, 2024, and this is episode 734 of the Lost Project podcast, and it's titled Thoughts on Meat Rabbits. I'll be chatting about our experience with meat rabbits. I've had a few different conversations about rabbits lately and thought it was time to chat about them again. Good morning. Sorry about that. Little bit of a distraction here this morning. Schedules are different. It's a holiday weekend, or it's a holiday, and I guess a holiday weekend. So I'm not sure how busy the chat will be with everybody not going into work and not getting up early. But yeah, our schedule got thrown off a little bit different, and Norman's getting his morning gallon of water drink over there. Just, I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background, but I can definitely hear it here. Anyway, let's see if anybody has popped in over on the live chat. We're streaming right now to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Nostr, Rumble, Telegram, and the such. It doesn't look like anybody's popped in this morning. I wasn't sure how many people would pop in today. We will see how it goes as the day goes on. But let's see what is in the cup this morning. I'm drinking some of the Opti blend that I started with yesterday. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. I'm going to pull up the description that Brian left. In the Telegram chat yesterday when I asked what the Opti blend was. He jumped in. What you looking for? He jumped in after I asked on the show what the Opti blend was, and we had a lot of conversation in that in the Telegram chat the other day. Opti Blend is part of a 2-pack I made for a DJ formerly known as Miles Optimistic. The other blend is Mystic, which is a blend like Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet is the blend that we made up for my silver sale, which was super light and super dark mixed together. It's a fantastic blend. It's got I believe we went with the Monsoon Malabar. Nope. Man, it's been a while. You can check out Silver Bullet Blend over at Food Forest Farms. Except the dark bean in his is a decaf. The Opti blend is the most complex light roast he's ever made. And he asked me to try to guess a few of the origins. Good morning, Jim. How we doing? Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. And happy 4th of July to you, sir. Hopefully you're free today. But he asked me to kind of guess some of the beans in there. Good morning, Matt Randall and Casey Bibble. How's it going? How are you guys doing over on that vertical feed? Appreciate you stopping. Hit that like and subscribe over there. And Mike's Homestead, thanks for popping in. Emily and Jeff Woodward, good morning. Thanks for stopping in. And oh, Matt, thanks. Appreciate it. Name a car for what is the SN Edit? Is that shorts or something? Canadian Farmstead, good morning over on the full feed. Appreciate that. Thanks for stopping in, guys. I appreciate it on the holiday. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. Usually most folks are tuning in before work, or and then on the holidays we sleep in. That's usually the reason I don't do shows on the weekends, other than the fact that I need a couple days off every week. But Brian asked me to guess what kind of beans are in this Opti blend. And I am not, man, I wish I could. I wish that was a skill. Thanks, Marilyn. Thanks. I appreciate it for the subscribe. I don't know what kind of car you want. Conspiracy Boys never sleeps. That's not a good thing. Canadian Farmstead was wondering what holiday it is. Oh yeah, that's right. You guys are still beholden to the king. or queen or who it did that guy die yet? I remember the big thing, the queen died and then the king took over, and they were saying that he's gonna die soon. To see it, he had like cancer or some bullshit, and then they didn't want the prince's wife to be the queen, so they didn't want the prince's wife to be the queen, so they made her disappear or something. I don't know. Marilyn's wondering what age I am right now. Old enough to know better. Old enough to know better for sure. Anyway, I really wish I could I wish I could pick beans out of a blend. It tastes fantastic though. It tastes fantastic. I'll work on it. I'm definitely gonna have another cup or another French press after the show this morning, and I will think about it when I can sit down and really put my pay attention to it. Put my pay attention to it. What? Hey Zoser, how we doing this morning? He's got a question. We might talk about rabbits today. We might just Captain Marvel, you can't see my dick. No. He's wondering if you ever go to itch your hole and your underwear has a hole in the spot you itched. I can't say that I have. I can't say that I have. Have I ever gotten drunk in a gay bar? What is it about? Hey guys, what is it about the vertical feed that just brings what is wrong with you people? I'm just not sure. Anyway, if you want to pick up some awesome coffee, head on over to Food Forest Farms, foodforestfarms.com. You can grab 10% off the already low prices and the free shipping when you use discount code LOTS10, LOTS10. Head on over there, 10% off. Order up some awesome coffee or anything else on the list over there and grab that 10% off. That's a one-time use coupon. If you've already used that, you can use LOTS5 every day, all day, forever and ever for everything over at foodforestfarms.com. LOTS5, LOTS5 will get you 5% off every day. Grab some coffee and you won't be disappointed. Mark says it's the internet. I got you. They said this dude Zorse or dude, I guess, I would think. I don't know. Maybe it's a female, but says that it's common to have holes in your underwear. If you wear them, I guess is one thing there. Man. All right, let's talk about rabbits. I'm not gonna indulge the beast over there. Good morning, Pip. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. So I thought I was gonna talk about independence and July 4th and happy Independence Day, and then I figured it would go down the path of Conspiracy Boys wants to talk about Bigfoot. Weird. Mike's Homestead, not afraid to get your ass kicked when you're not face to face. That is a good point. That is definitely a good point. This is I don't really care. You guys just mess it. I don't care. I don't care. Canadian Farmstead said every underwear has 3 holes already. What about the pea hatch in like men's boxer briefs or even tighty whities has the P flap hole where it overlaps? I don't know. I was probably going to talk about 4th of July. I was like, I was thinking yesterday when I was out working. Oh, by the way, yesterday was how about Mark says 2 leg holes and 1 pee hole. What about the hole you put your fucking waist in? That's the rather large hole. I was out working yesterday. God damn, it was hot. Not necessarily as hot, but the humidity went through the roof. It was a drencher. It was a drencher for sure. The minute I started working, it was just like instant soaked. I've been experienced what Carrie Brown called the drench season, and I'm comfortable with it. It's all right. I've learned that I got to take extra t-shirts. I got to make sure I drink all my water and all that stuff. Yesterday was a different animal, man. Yesterday was there was something different about yesterday that I don't know if it was the combination of the heat and the humidity, but it was the highest feels like or heat index or whatever that we've had so far. But yeah, it was like instant. And these button down work shirts, I really like them. They breathe really well. They don't get super soaked. These shirts were literally like I took them out of a bucket of water. Mark K says I stacked wood for 4 hours yesterday. I didn't sweat through the clothes, but definitely drank all the water in my lunchbox. It was rough. Where are you at, Mark? We're in Tennessee right now. It was roasty toasty for sure. It was these shirts, like I said, like they stay really they breathe really well. Any sort of breeze gets picked up and they dry and they kind of wick the sweat away, but they don't stay drenched. Yesterday, I was just blowing through shirts and t-shirts, these shirts, my pants were wet enough that my sweat was dropping, hitting my pants, and instead of absorbing, rolling off because they were already soaked. Conspiracy Boy says he wants to talk about Biden. I don't talk about that bullshit. I don't participate. I'm an anarchist and have really given up on all politics. And I mean, I bullshit about how retarded all of them are, but yeah, I don't really care. Left, right, center, they're all the same. Do I believe that humans are changing the climate? No. Anyway, I was going to talk about independence and how we are spiraling actually away from independence, both on a world level, on a national level, really on a state level, and for the majority of people, they're falling into less independence on their own. And if you're not consciously trying to improve your life and not consciously trying to increase your independence, increase your liberty, increase your sovereignty, you're going the other way. And I could go on and on and on and on and on about that and why it's important. And that is what it is. It is what it is. And it's not what I wanted to do today. So I decided that I wanted to talk about something else. Do I know the numbers? This dude wants to talk about fucking climate change. He is definitely in the wrong room. Definitely in the wrong room with me about climate change. Yeah, no. So I just wanted to. I was thinking about what else to talk about. Oh, here we are. We got a Twitch spammer, and I don't have my Twitch moderator in the audience today. That's fantastic. Thanks, Hunter. I hope you're listening to this after the fact, and you know I had to deal with Twitch spammers all on my own. So I was thinking while I was working yesterday that I didn't really want to talk about the independence route and what I wanted to talk about today, because I didn't know that the vertical feed was going to have such a lively audience in it. So I thought I want to talk about rabbits, meat rabbits. We raised them on the farm for quite a while. And recently, in a few different Telegram groups, and actually in a Facebook group, and in a couple of different um, Facebook groups, a couple of Telegram groups, and one Facebook group, I've gotten in discussions about rabbits, and they were just random questions, but they turned into conversations about all sorts of different things, as far as growth rates and breeds and where to find them and how to determine which ones to buy and this and that and the other thing. And so yesterday I was like, okay, that's kind of obvious what I should talk about today. I'm just going to talk about rabbits. I'm going to talk about rabbits, and it really fits in. Conspiracy Boy says, my dog pees in my mouth. That's lovely for you. There's your clip, Jim, for the day. So I figured rabbits would work for 4th of July, because rabbits, pretty much from my experience, are about the most feed store independent animal that you're going to grab, that you're going to raise. So what I mean by that is, you raise a lot of animals, you're going to be dependent on the feed store, depending on where you're located, depending on what you can grow for yourself, depending on how much stuff you can grow for yourself. A lot of the animals you're going to raise are going to be feed store dependent. Chickens can forage very well. They're gonna need some supplemental feed. Can you do it? Absolutely. Can you raise chickens without a Mike Somstead says Scooby was a part of Shaggy's bad trip. We had an episode about that. We had a whole episode about that for sure. And so you can get through chickens. Other animals, I didn't get into any bigger livestock when we were on the farm. The biggest we did were probably turkeys. We didn't do any hogs or cow, any beef at all. But the rabbits were very, very homestead friendly, should we say. If you wanted the highest production, if you're trying to do a production model where you were selling them and you wanted to make a profit, you really needed to get some pellets. You needed to get some feed from the feed store. But in the end, really, when it came down to it, you could definitely keep them alive and keep them reproducing off the land. They're good with forage. So if you go out and you're cutting hay in an overgrown field or in an overgrown lawn, you can run them in tractors in your lawn and let your lawn grow longer and let them eat that. You can supplement them with perennials that you plant, that I suggest, like comfrey and other high protein perennials that just come back, that have medicinal benefits and protein benefits for your animals. Should be giving that to them too, as supplementary, even if you're giving pellets and stuff. But yeah, if shit goes sideways, which all the people in the vertical feed seem to think that everything's breaking down, which is cool. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. But if something breaks down, supply chains break down, even if it's temporary, if you got a bunch of rabbits, you can make it work. You can make it work. So I think that they're definitely a survivalist, an independent, a safety food source. If you got a homestead, you got a small urban farm, even if you're not farming or anything like that, and you're in a neighborhood, rabbits are great because they're quiet. You can keep them so that they're not smelling. They're not going to raise awareness that you're doing anything with them, and you get all sorts of products out of them. Conspiracy Boy says, I can't breathe because I'm not breathing. Is that a George Floyd reference? Interesting. Good morning, Jim, over there on Twitch. I don't think you're a moderator over there, buddy. I don't remember how Hunter got me to do that. I had to type some command and it was directly into Twitch and I don't have it open. Sorry, bud. But thanks for the zap over on Noster. I appreciate that. Any of you guys in the vertical feed smart enough to use Noster? Are you just YouTubers? Just YouTubers. So, oh, thanks for reporting the spammer. I appreciate that. Appreciate it, Jim. So yeah, rabbits can do them in the suburbs. You can do them really. I suppose if you have a garage, you could technically do them in the city, or if you had some place to keep them. People keep them as pets. I think they keep them inside. I don't know if I would necessarily would run a rabbitry big enough to make it worth it in my house, but I've seen crazier. But suburban, hold on one second. Good morning, Hanging Laundry. Let me read this message and I definitely will address the question. And if anybody else has questions about rabbits that are actually about rabbits, I'm talking to you, vertical feed. I'd be happy to share my experience. I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I'm not claiming to know, and I'm not claiming to be necessarily a rabbit expert, but I did raise them. I did succeed and fail greatly with them and learned a lot and willing to share it. So Hagen Laundry says, good morning. What I wrestle with, it kind of bugs me keeping breeding rabbits in small cages. Looked into community pens on the ground, but that has its own set of problems. Maybe bigger cages. We did, ours were 30 by 30 by 30 by 24, right, Corey?
No, they were bigger than that.
30 by 36 by, no, just a half though for the breeder.
But they were way taller.
30 by 30 by 30, maybe.
Yeah.
30 by 24 by 30. Ours were larger. Ours were larger cages for the breeders than recommended. And then we did side by side hutches where mom had one side. Canadian Farmstead says good morning to you, darling. Where mom had one side and then she would have her litter, and as the litter got big enough to be weaned, they went right in the cage next to her. So they were just like, they shared a wall. And then our bucks had single cages. Jim says, hey, darling. Hey, Darlene. So I don't know. Our rabbits seemed very happy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Our rabbits, and this it just is what it is. I would have made our cages different. We were gonna go to a different style cage when we decided to shut down the rabbitry. And I think if we had been in a different location, the rabbit experiment probably would have went way different. And would have gone a lot longer with it. Our biggest issue with the rabbits was the winter. I mean, really in the end, when it came down to it, and the fact that, and this is a lot of things for when we were in Minnesota, is the winter caused everything else to be harder, even not in winter. And what I mean by that is, we had to do everything in the cold, or when we were able to be outside, when we were able to grow the garden, when we were able to harvest hay, all of the things that you do when it's not frozen. We only had a short amount of time to do that. And so when you're trying to stack in raising meat chickens, raising turkeys, raising rabbits, culling all of them, doing a garden, harvesting the garden, taking care of the garden, working full-time jobs, taking care of the house, taking care of the dogs, raising quail, all these things. And you try to do it when it's warm. You try to do it when it's not negative 10 degrees, 0 degrees, frozen, 2 feet of snow on the ground. You try to do it at that point, but you only had 4 months ish of really good time, 6 months ish of a possible time between snow. Was it like 6 months? We'd have snow in May for sure. So June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, 5-6 months to do everything for the year. Putting batches of meat rabbits in there, taking days to cull them, trying to extend their seasons, and ended up having to cull them when it's super cold, it's frozen, there's snow, you don't have any running water, so you're using buckets. We went as far as because we didn't have a processing house that was in the works, but I ended up processing batches and batches of rabbits in my kitchen, in our farmhouse kitchen. I literally would hang paracord from the molding above our sink and suspend them above it like I was hanging them out of a tree. So I'd dispatch them outside. I would bring them inside and process them in the kitchen. Not ideal by any means, not ideal. So if we had been somewhere else and we could spread the production out over the year, and this went with everything, the chickens, the quail, the turkeys, we probably would have gotten more into hogs. It would have just made life easier. It would have made more things smoother throughout the year. We got overwhelmed with what we had to get done in such a short time. But we enjoyed raising the rabbits for sure. We learned a ton about them. So some notes I had here that I wanted to hit on, and Hanging Laundry talked about community pens. They do come with their own set of problems. We didn't raise community pens other than our grow outs. So all our grow outs would go into cages together, and then as they outgrew the size, they would be then taken and put in different cages in pairs or separated by male and female and things like that until freezer camp day. Community comes with a lot of disease. It comes with issues keeping track of who is who. It can be done. It can be done for sure. Canadian Farm says, so your tip about raising rabbits is not to live where it snows 7 months out of the year. That's tip number one. That's tip number one in life. If I've learned anything from 20 years in Minnesota, it's don't do that. Don't do that. If you want to do this lifestyle, for sure. If you're an ice fisherman and you like ice fishing, or you like, and I can't even say snowmobiling. I was going to say if you like snowmobiling, live there, but half the time you don't get any fucking snow. It's just butt fucking cold. If you like being cold for months on end, if that's what you like, just being cold a lot, then do it. Yeah, go to Minnesota. I suppose if you were in a region like that, and I guess anywhere really, if you were just doing production for yourself, if you were just raising rabbits for your own consumption with 2 does and a buck. And I think we did the math, and 2 does and a buck, or 3 does and a buck, or even 4 does and 2 bucks. And we always wanted to have at least 2 bucks in case one died, because rabbits die. I'll tell you, they die, and they die instantly, and they die for no reason. They die for some reason. They just die. And if your buck dies, you're kind of SOL. I think at the end we ended up having 5 different bucks. 5 different. We had them from all different lines. But if you were doing, I would say 3 to 4 does and a couple bucks, you could feed yourself, family of 4, probably pretty nice. I would have to go through the numbers again. That's something that's really up in the air too. After the fact, after I read all the information, and how that went down is we knew we were moving to the farm long before we went to the farm, 2 years probably, where we started talking about it. We decided we were going to do it. We took like a year to find the farm we were going to move to. Excuse me. And so I had a lot of time to read about the things we wanted to do, because neither Corey and I had ever lived on a farm. Neither Corey and I had ever raised animals other than domestic pets. Corey actually had rabbits when she was a kid, and rats, and dogs and cats. There were no other weird animals you had, were there? Oh, fish too. But she didn't live on a farm. I grew up in like a small town, but in town. So we had a lot of learning to do. So I read and read and read and read and read. And the more I read about rabbits, the more conflicting information I get. So that's one thing. Second was, people would talk about, oh, you can get this much meat out of two does and a buck. Yeah, good luck. Litter sizes are all over the place. I can say that you get pretty consistent, like one doe, a specific doe will kind of throw about the same size litters every time. But I can't say that they consistently have the same amount survive. And I definitely realize that every doe is different, for sure. Every breed, and even within the same breed, they all seem to be different. We had 2 American does that one would throw litters that were like anywhere from 8 to 12 on the high end, and when there were super big litters, they obviously would, well, not obviously, but they would consistently lose some, just because there'd be a runt or this or that. But then they would turn around and have a litter of 5 or 6. Planning with that gets really hard. If you're planning on having that source of meat, or if you're selling them and you're counting on these litters, because you get a doe pregnant and it's 28 days, and then you wait and then they pop out and you're like, oh, and you count them and you're like, great, I got 9, and then 4 die, and you're like, oh, well, I have 5, but I have orders for 7, because you were excited because you got 9 because you had more than you needed. That's kind of how that goes, and it's a long cycle. So inconsistency, doe to doe, breed to breed, yeah, figuring it all out. And as you take your notes, and we took very good notes when we were raising them. We had a big whiteboard in our rabbitry, and we had notes about when they were bred, when they had their litter, how many they had, who the father was, blah 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 down the road. And we also had cards on each of our cages that had that information. And as you start keeping the records, you realize that nothing is consistent. It's almost like you don't need to do it at all, because it just didn't seem consistent, at least to me. And that could have been time of year. It could have been weather. It could have been a million different factors. But when you read articles and it says you need to do this, and this, and you'll get this many pounds, or this many carcasses, this many offspring, it is what it is. Jim says, what breed did I raise? Did I miss that? You didn't miss it. And we raised a bunch. I was making the list here, and I think I got them all. Corey, you want to listen to this list? We had Americans, New Zealand's, Californian, Rex, and Flemish Giant. And then a host of crosses, because we were doing an interesting breeding program. You think of any others that we had of that list? Pretty sure that was That was it. We never got into the silver foxes. We were looking at that. Harlequins. Did we have those Did we get those Harlequins that were spotted? We never got them. Yeah, I think that's kind of our list. They were all pretty much meat breeds, except the Rex and the Flemish Giant. Those were for an experiment that we were doing. That was very. If it had worked, it would have been fantastic. Pip says Flemish Giant. Flemish Giant is a breed of rabbit that gets to be like 24 pounds or some stupid shit. They're enormous. They're absolutely enormous, but they're not great for meat rabbits because they have a really slow growth rate and a really high bone to meat ratio, which means they have a lot of bone for their weight. Less meat, more bones. They also grow super slow, which means you have to feed them longer. You have to take care of them longer. And then the other specialty breed that we had that weren't just meat rabbits, normal meat rabbit breeds, were the Rex. And the Rex rabbits we were interested in for their fur. And the opposite reason they're not meat rabbits is because they're traditionally smaller. They have I believe they have a higher bone to meat ratio, even though they're smaller. And they grow slower. They grow slow, and they're smaller, but they have this super plush fur. It's a recessive trait in rabbits, and if it's been a while since you were in high school biology class, recessive gene is only present when two rabbits with that recessive gene breed. So through breeding and years and years and years, these rabbits have developed this recessive gene that has their fur is like a double layer, a super plush, super soft fur that it's phenomenal. If you've ever picked up a Rex rabbit, you know the difference. You can see it visually, but when you touch a Rex rabbit, they're just unbelievably soft. So what my crazy experiment was if I could take a Rex and a Flemish Giant and then maybe even mix in some other of our meat rabbits to bring in some traits as far as bone ratio, and some other desirable characteristics, and get that recessive fur gene, which would take some time because you're going to, I don't know if you ever remember doing the genetic squares where you have like big R, big R, big R, little r, big R, little r, little r, little r. We needed those little r, little r's. But when you're breeding in animals that don't have that gene, you have to go several generations to get that consistency, and you have to be selective in who you take. And that first breeding cycle, it's a guess unless you're getting genetic testing done, which it wasn't happening for me. So basically I would breed a Flemish Giant doe with a Rex male, and the offspring would come out, and none of them would have the plush fur, but some of them would have supposedly would have the recessive gene in their genetics. So if I took and bred the ones, if I got it right and bred the one with the recessive gene back to the dad who had the plush fur, some of their offspring should have plush fur. Should. And when you're talking time, our breeding program does, we waited till they were a year old to breed them. So you have to think about the fact that we bred Flemish Giant and Rex, waited a month to have the litter, and then waited a year to breed her, and waited 28 days to get the kits, and then another probably 4 weeks before they had the fur, and you could tell if they were going to be Rex or not. So you're looking at, what is that, 14 and a half months, 15 months for each round. It's a long process. Breeding genetics into rabbits is a long, slow process. But in the end, what we wanted was a meat rabbit growing type rabbit that also had plush fur, that we could use the fur, that grew out in an appropriate amount of time. And I'll talk about fur here in a second and why we didn't do it with our meat rabbits. But we were trying to get, Jim says the record keeping must have been fun too. It was an interesting experiment. If it had worked, it would have been great. When you start crossing breeds, you can run into some problems. We had some really funky looking offspring. Some stuff that you really didn't want. You almost wanted to immediately call them, but yeah, the breeding two different breeds of rabbits, you can come up with some weird shit. We got talking about hybrid vigor in one of the groups and what that is. Some people were having some growth rate problems with their New Zealands. We said maybe try breeding them with a Californian or a silver fox or American, something like that. Because when you breed two purebred animals of different breeds, so if you're going to breed a New Zealand and a American, and this is true in chickens, this is true kind of across the board in all animals that have different breeds, what you can get in that first generation, which is called F1 generation, Jack Spirko talks about it a lot. There's a few other people that talk about it a lot, but you get this hybrid vigor. Two purebreds offspring can be very productive. They can have large size, large growth rates, large offspring, like put off huge litters. You get the best of both sides. What then happens when you take an F1 and an F1 and breed them together? So if you have an American and a New Zealand cross, and you have your F1 American New Zealand, that's huge, and you're like, oh, holy crap, these are huge rabbits. These they have great bone ratio, they grow super fast, the meat tastes great, they produce huge litters. I'm going to take my American New Zealand and I'm going to breed it to an American New Zealand, both F1s. When you breed those together, it almost regresses back to the original. It's a way to bring out desirable traits, and you have to be very selective in that F2 generation which ones you keep. You have to be very conscious of the fact that you're going to start getting some weird, not inbred things, but you're just going to lose a lot of the hybrid vigor that comes in the F1 generation. And you pick and choose what you want. So like in our meat Rex fur thing that we were doing in that F2 generation, we were starting to look for that plush fur. We were starting to look for that high growth rate and keep those individual rabbits that were showing those traits in the F2 generation, because then those are long sustaining traits if you're going to use that as a breeding doe. That goes along with chickens, that goes along with rabbits. That's nature when you're doing cross breeding. And this is all assuming that you're actually breeding purebreds together. Lots and lots and lots of breeders have no fucking idea what they're selling. They have no idea what their rabbits are, and they sell them as what they think they are. Well, that's fine and great for a pet. That's fine and great if you're running meat mutts and you're running them for dog food and you don't give a shit about growth rates and you don't give a shit about anything. But if you're doing a breeding program and you're looking to experience results with hybrid vigor, you're looking for long-term breeding lines, you need to spend extra money. You need to spend the extra money going to somebody that has a pedigree, has a lineage, has records of where and how this doe has been bred, how she was conceived, and it's going to cost you money. It's not going to be a Craigslist. I got $20 does and $10 bucks. They're fine and all. If that's what you can afford, if that's the road you want to go for it. But if your plans are to use these in a breeding program and use these to possibly come up with your own breed or do some experimenting with things, you need to really make sure you know what you have, because it makes a huge difference if they're purebred, if they're crosses. It really, really, really makes a difference. So be warned, spend the money if this is what you want to do. If you want to just run meat rabbits and somebody's like, oh, I got New Zealand's and they're big, and you go to their farm and they got 8-week-old New Zealand's that are pushing 4 pounds, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. But just know it might be that doe only, and you might keep one of her offspring and breed it to someone and breed it to one of your bucks, and you might not have the same results. So just be aware. Be aware of that. I mentioned that we didn't do fur with our meat rabbits, and that was one of our intentions going into it. It was like, oh, great, we get all these rabbits, we get the meat, and then we get the furs, and we can process the furs, and we can sell the furs, and we can sell the meat, and it's going to be great. One thing that I didn't see when people were talking about doing furs, and it was mentioned, but it was never all mentioned together in the stuff that I read, is meat rabbits. Miss Lovely, how you doing? This conversation is so interesting to me, and I'm not even planning on breeding bunnies. Thanks, I appreciate that. It's an interesting topic for me, and we're not doing rabbits anymore. I just thought I was going to talk about them today because I've been talking to quite a few people about them. So with the meat rabbits and the fur, no one really touched on the fact that when you're culling your meat culls, so when you're growing out rabbits, you're trying to get them to weight as soon as possible, whatever weight that is that you want. So if you're eating them for yourselves and you have your wife and you and no kids and you're by yourself, and good morning. And a 2 pound a 2-pound cull weight cooked on your table is enough meat for you. You need to know that, and you need to cull your rabbits to the size you need. If you're trying to sell them to a market, the average you're trying to shoot for is like a 3-pound cull weight is appropriate from what I learned. Come to find out, when we would go to Hy-Vee in the cities, they were selling like 1.5-pound processed rabbits at like $14 a pound. And I was like, you're insane. I was selling 3-pound cull weight, 3 to 4-pound cull weight for $20 flat. I didn't do per pound. I just did $20 for human consumption. But what they don't tell you is you're racing for that. You're racing for that cull weight. You want to keep pellets down. You want to keep the feed cost down, the time amount that you're putting into them down. You want as little input into these rabbits as possible. They're going to be nursing from mom for 3 to 4 weeks. Is that 6 weeks? Nursing from mom for like 3 to 4, and then pellets, and then weaned at 6 to 8.
Yeah, they're weaned at 6 weeks. We pulled ours.
We pulled ours at 6. So they would only drink from mom for a few weeks, then they would start eating pellets and drinking from mom, and then we would wean them off at about 6 weeks. And hopefully call them 8 to 10. Ideally. Rarely did you have grow outs that were that good. That's where you were looking for that hybrid vigor in that F1 generation. But regardless, even at 12 weeks, even at 14 weeks, when you call that rabbit, it hasn't had enough time to put on really good fur. Its skin isn't that thick. It's not developed. When you process it and you pull the fur, they're very thin. They rip quite a bit. The fur isn't super thick. And when you go to process the fur, which is a whole process in itself, it really takes a lot of work, time, and energy to process these. The furs you're getting from meat culls aren't worth it. They are not worth it, in our opinion. In our opinion. Jim says, what's the weaning process? Taking the rabbits and putting them in a different cage was our weaning process, basically. We let them live with her for 6 weeks. We made sure that they were eating pellets on their own, and then we took them and put them in a different cage. And mom was very thankful. Mom was very, very thankful. And for her reward, we would breed her again. So, but we determined that the meat rabbit breeds at cull weight, at cull time, didn't produce furs that were worth the time and energy to process. I did explore some outlets of selling raw, like unprocessed furs. Like we would take them out, take them off the rabbit, fold them up, put them in a bag, and then sell them as just fresh fur. I felt kind of shady about doing that because they didn't know what they were getting in that. I mean, they did if I listed it right, but I think that a lot of people were under the impression that they were getting the same thing that I thought I was getting, was a fur that you were going to process, and then when at the end it was going to be really nice. It was going to be like the rabbit fur you were going to put inside a glove. You're going to get that more out of an adult rabbit, more out of a more mature rabbit. You're going to want to time the culling of those rabbits to whenever in your region the rabbits are putting on their winter fur. We took a class with a lady at a primitive it was actually a fur trapper rendezvous in our area, where they kind of did period time, like a Civil War reenactment, but this was fur trader reenactment. We took a class from her on how to naturally process and tan rabbit fur. And she was talking about her breeding program and how she lined up all her fur rabbits to be culled at the same time of year, going into winter, where they put on the thickest, plushest, hardiest fur, which makes sense. She would call them, take them off, and then have the winter to process them all. The meat rabbits just didn't cut it. So you have to, I think you have to decide whether you want to go into this for the meat, because you can get the meat from the fur rabbits. It's just a super long cycle. It's a longer, more expensive cycle. You're getting a higher end product out of it, but you're waiting for your meat. So you really need to figure out what your intention is here, what you want to sell, how you want to cover your costs. And that would be my goal going forward ever with rabbits at this point, would be just trying to eat for free. If I can raise my rabbits and the only cost I have into them is my labor, and I can have rabbit 1 or 2 nights a week all year round, I'm happy at that point. Can you make a little money? Yeah, you can. Can you make a lot of money? I suppose you could. I didn't see a path to a lot of money in rabbits. I I saw a path to covering my feed, covering my process, and maybe a little bit to cover my time. But basically, my goal in the end was to get to eating for free, which means I had to sell some, obviously. The best sales outlet that I found, and this really depends on your state, on your restrictions, on your local laws, what you care. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't follow them. Maybe you just do your own thing. But my go-to was selling into the pet food market. There was very little restrictions, actually none, in the pet food world. And I was selling to people that fed their dogs a raw food diet, fed their cats a raw food diet, fed their snakes rabbit culls. And I started selling them everywhere from Pinky, which was like eyes aren't even open yet, just born in the nesting box, all the way up to adult rabbits. I would grow them out specifically for these people. They would tell me how big they wanted. Some wanted them whole, like they were alive, but they're not. So all their internals are there, the fur's there, the head's there, everything's there. All they wanted was them unalived, wrapped in butcher paper and frozen. Other people wanted them gutted with the fur left on. Other people wanted them gutted and fur off and processed like a human would eat them. It was all customer to customer. But you look at that, and then you can charge them according to how much work you have to do, which is really nice. You can take into account how long you have to grow them out, how much time you have in processing them. My favorite customers were the whole prey model customers. Like I said, just unalived and put in butcher paper. How hard is that? Whack them on the head, done. They don't even want them bled out. Like, they just want them cervical dislocated and not bled out because they wanted that blood in there for the nutrition for the animal. They were the best. I suggest anybody on a homestead, no matter what animal you're raising, at least selling some products into the pet food industry. If you're raising rabbits, you can do heads. Okay, what did we sell in the pet food industry? We sold the heads, we sold whole rabbits, we sold processed rabbits, we sold heads, we sold organs. That was all into the pet food market. Chickens, we sold chicken heads, we sold chicken feet, we sold whole chickens, we sold processed chickens, we sold chicken organs. Quail, whole quail heads. Yeah, that was about it with the quail because they were so small. But you can literally sell your scrap and your waste to someone that will appreciate it and feed it to their dog, especially if you raise high quality animals. If you raise organic feed animals, if you raise pastured animals, you raise pastured chicken. Jim says heads. People want just the heads. Rabbit heads and quail heads are fantastic dog and cat treats. Frozen. Basically, what I would do with the heads, the rabbit heads, I would cut the head off and put 4 in a gallon Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer and sell them for $0.25 to 50 cents a piece. So $1 to $2 per gallon bag. And they would be in the freezer, and people that fed raw would take them out of the freezer and frozen or thawed, toss them to their dog. And the bone, the brain, the fur, the skin on their head is all fantastic for the dog. The eyes, they're all great. And the dogs love them. Corey used to take them to her dog sledding trip with her mom. She used to go up and dog sled every winter up in northern Minnesota. And she would take bags of these, and the dogs absolutely loved them. The trainers would go out and they would just take the heads and throw them to the dogs. Throw them and they would just grab them and love them, lay down and start chomping on them, crunch them up. Jim says crunchy and chewy. Yeah. Quail heads were the same. And then they were sized right for cats too. So the smaller dogs like them. And I sold those for like a dime to 20 cents a piece, depending on the customer, depending on how many they were getting. We also, with the rabbits, another way you can make a little money is we made rabbit foot keychains. That was a project that Corey took on that actually took off. We had seen that. Do I play Roblox? No, I don't play games. I'm sorry. What do I do? I talk. I have a talk show. I have a podcast, talk show. Is that, you mean, why am I on the live? Sorry, guys, on the vertical feed, I had a question. What do you do for live? She's wondering if I play Roblox. I that's the second time in 2 days I've heard that name, and I don't know what it is. I've never heard of it before, and then I've heard it twice in the last 2 days. Interesting. So the rabbit foot keychain is something that we saw that Corey took on. She made some, and we were kind of happy with the product. We made it better over a couple of tries, but we sold a ton of those things. We sold a ton of them on Etsy. Locally, we sold some to a local like trading post, gift shop type of place. Yeah, super low cost. The process is a longer process, but not real labor intensive. Basically, you end up, you take them, you trim them, you put them in a jar with some solution, you let them sit, you shake them up every day, you put them in another jar with some other solution, you let them sit, then you dry them out, and then basically you take a those little jingle bells that you can use for crafts. You get them, you take that and you peel them open. You know, they have the four little sides. You peel them open and take the little jingle ball out, and then you epoxy them on the end of the rabbit foot, and then clamp down the little leaves, and it has the tab that you would use to hang it on a Christmas tree. You put a hook on it, you put a keychain loop through that, and you're good to go. Fantastic product. Sold tons of them. And you get 2 per rabbit. The front feet we used to toss, and then we realized that they were great if we finished them just like the keychains, but didn't put the hardware on them. You could sell them for cat toys. Cats absolutely loved them. Well, I shouldn't say all cats. It was like 50-50. We tested the product with some friends. One friend had 2 cats. One loved them. Absolutely loved them. Every time we came over, would come running to Corey, looking in her purse, like sticking her head in a purse, looking for new rabbit foot toys. They would bat them around, carry them around, play with them, throw them in the air, lose them in the couch. And then the other cat had no interest whatsoever in them. Not one. You could set it in front of it. You could stick it in its mouth. You could tease it with it. It just didn't give a shit. And we had that kind of experience across the board with like customer feedback and things like that. I would say more like them than said that they didn't. But you kind of, when you own a cat, you know its personality, you know if it's something that you would like or not. So that was another outlet for those. That was a decent seller, and that was even less cost. It was all time. Basically, the solution we were using was borax and water, which is relatively cheap material, and then a round of rubbing alcohol. There's a video on our YouTube channel. You can, if you check the YouTube channel, I don't have the link offhand, but you can check out the YouTube channel. There's a video on how to do it. We've had several people use it to start their little hustle with making rabbit foot keychains. Jim bought one. Yeah, Jim's got one. Several people in the audience that hang out have had one, bought them, and I appreciate that. We don't have, I think I have a couple left actually. They're kicking around here somewhere. I found them in a bag that we had, that we sold our whole farm. We went through all our shit multiple times. And randomly, like a year into after we left, I found these in just a bag that we used to store some other stuff. They were in one of the pockets. There they are. So, um, clip number 2, you could stick it in its mouth. Yeah. Just super clippable. This show is clippable for sure. I definitely, yeah, we'll just leave that at that. But anyway, just in general, I was trying to figure out if I would do rabbits again. So our general plan right now is, get our cabin built out at Delinquent Scully, to manage that property, to build that property up, to get that functioning and rolling. And then we don't know. I would like to do it again somewhere, like a different climate, a different property, kind of the same cycle. But you never know. We might get up there and we're really committing 3 to 5 years to this project. And in 3 to 5 years, we might be in love with this place. We might love our cabin. We might love living in the woods, or we might be ready to move on and try it again and visit this place. If we end up wanting to stay here and we're like, this is it, we're fine. We could stay here for the rest of our lives, or we could go make a vacation property somewhere else. But this is really our home base. I would consider doing rabbits again. I would consider doing rabbits for our consumption only. I might consider doing rabbits enough to feed raw dog food. But it would have to be a whole cull model. It would have to be a non-processed model. It would have to be our culls are for us. So 52 weeks a year, like 100 rabbits a year. 100 give or take rabbits a year. I could do. Plus the dog rabbits with no processing. So all you're doing is taking care of them. As long as I didn't have the winter where I was constantly changing water bottles, I was constantly unfreezing water bottles, I was doing all the winter stuff, I think I would do rabbits again. I'd be okay with that. And maybe even less, maybe even 50 rabbits a year, one a week, or 40 and not even have one a week. The dog food element makes sense to me. It didn't make sense to us at the time. The dogs we had at the time were older, and transitioning them to raw would have been too much. And we didn't have the rest of the components to balance their diet. But I think if you had a younger dog and you had the stability to have the other components for a balanced raw diet, Hanging Laundry was wondering if I could talk about dispatching. Yeah, I can, because it's a holiday and I don't need to get off the internet at the moment. Yeah, I think I would do it again. Let's just say rabbits, I would do it again. Hanging Laundry says, can you discuss dispatching? I saw a wall-mounted gizmo where the bunny's head goes into a loop and you pull it down to dislocate it. Seems quite humane and simple. I must admit that would be tough for me. Dispatching was tough. Call day on the farm, whether it was rabbits, chickens, quail, turkeys, whatever, was always a different day. There was always a different vibe on the farm from the time I got up till the time I went to bed. And I always felt that was a good thing. If I was nonchalant about killing shit and didn't care especially after raising it, I probably had done it too long. What you're talking about, the wall mounted gizmo, is called a hopper popper. Or a variety of such thing. Basically, I made my own, and you're right. It's a wall mounted unit. Instead of a loop, it's basically a V. I don't know how to do this on the screen. So this is going to sit like this. Rabbit's head's going to go up in here, and this is it narrows down, and so you slide the rabbit's neck in, and as you get closer to the one side, the head can't get down, and basically you get its head stuck, and you grab its back feet and just pull. It literally separates the brain from the spine, killing the rabbit instantly. It has a lot of motion and kicking and thrashing just from residual muscle twitch. Its heart's still pumping. It's a perfect time. So my process was grab the rabbit out of the cage, calm it down, carry it, hopefully calm it down. Some of them would freak the fuck out. Others would just like snuggle up in your arm. You get it over to the hopper popper, and I made mine out of a piece of angle iron and a half-inch piece of rebar. You can spend the money to buy them. You can make your own. There's other dispatch methods where like you put a broom over its head on the ground and hold its neck and pull. I found the hopper popper super easy and very, very humane, unless you fuck it up. And I did, and you will too. If you're doing this, you will fuck it up, and they will scream. They will scream so loud that you'll hear it in your soul. You'll hear it in the house. Your neighbors will hear it. You might have heard it in the woods at different points, and you're like, "Oh my god, what is that noise?" It's a dying rabbit. But if you do it properly and you don't mess it up, and 99% of the time you don't mess it up, they don't feel it. They don't have a problem. And so I would slide their head in, I would pull it, I would dislocate it, and you can tell because the head just flops at that point. And then I would take it and I would hang it in some slip knots from paracord from the tree, and I would slice its carotid, I'd slice its neck, and let it bleed out while the heart pumped, just like a chicken. Just like a chicken, you put in a cone and slice its neck, and you let it bleed out, and the heart pumps. You're decapitating basically the rabbit, and you're letting the heart naturally pump all the blood out of it. So the blood isn't residually in the meat or anything by the time you freeze it. So it gives that opportunity to actually pump the blood out instead of just draining it out. So I started by basically, when I started, I would slice its neck like all nice and let it bleed out like a chicken. By the end, what I would do was I would hit the hopper popper, and it would be the head would be floppy. So the spinal cord had been severed, and the vertebrae had been detached. And then I would just take my folding razor knife, my skinning knife, and when I hung it up, instead of slicing its neck to drain it, I would cut the whole head off. All you're doing is cutting the skin off, and then there is my whole rabbit head with blood and all the nutrients and everything that those raw feeders wanted still in the head. And then the body would pump out the rest of the blood, and it would just pump out the where the head used to be. That's what I used to do. I would let it sit and flop around and spasm and go through all its stuff, and then come back and skin it, gut it, rinse it, and freeze it. Does that answer your question? Hopper popper. If you want to search it and you want to look into them, hopper popper. Basically with acetylene torch and a welder, some angle iron and rebar, and you can make one in about 10 minutes if you're handy. Jim says, how long does one take to process? How many would you process at a time? I would process the whole litter, at least a litter. When I started processing them, man, it took forever, like half hour or more. By the end, I could do a rabbit in 10-ish minutes. from the time I took it out of the cage to the time I was grabbing the next one, 10 minutes. It took a lot of time to get there. It took a lot of practice to get there. So basically, you know, you're dispatching it, you're skinning it, which also depends on age and breed, how easy that goes. I've had younger ones with thinner skin that were harder because the skin would tear easily. I had older ones that it was tougher and the skin had grown more fibrous attachments to the meat. So it went either way. It really was rabbit to rabbit. But basically, when you hang it upside down, you skin it kind of like any other small game. You basically start at the ankles and you cut a ring, you cut down the legs to the crotch, and then you go and you start pulling the legs down. And once you get the fur off the legs and you get kind of to that pelvis region and you open up the pelvis, you can basically pull it off like a meat sweater, a fur sweater, because the head's gone. You remove the front paws, save them for making cat toys, but then you just peel it off just like a sweater. John Palmer said all you need is a board with a V cut in it mounted to a wall. Yeah, that would work. Wood gets yucky. Mine was outside. It's still mounted in the tree. I'm sure it's mounted in the tree there still because the tree grew around it after I mounted it to the tree. It was solid. It wasn't going anywhere. I really put some oomph into pulling because I didn't want to not get it done. So I'm sure you could do it with a V cut into the wall mount board. I have to admit I was at a job. I was at work and the material was there and the equipment was there and I had the time and I just made one. It was because of circumstance. I'm sure I would have come up with other alternative methods if I didn't have access to the welder or the grinder or the torch. Hanging Laundry said, could you discuss rabbit starvation? They always mention rabbit starvation is lack of fat. They're very lean. Well, I shouldn't say that. Wild rabbits are very, very lean. Our rabbits, we could get a bunch of fat into them depending on what we fed them and how well they were fed. But rabbit starvation is basically it's really with anything that you can eat that's low fat content. If that's all you eat, you're not getting a balanced diet. And I think that goes with anything. If you eat all of one thing for all of the time, you're not going to do so hot. That's what I believe. Jim says a myth based in a little fact. Yeah, because you're not just going to eat rabbit. Like who is only going to eat rabbit? I love rabbit. We actually ended up preferring rabbit to chicken, and that's how you cook it. It's a meat very similar to chicken. It cooks the same. It tastes similar. It can be used in anything that you're going to use chicken in. So we would, any recipe that called for chicken, you could use it, or you could cook it on its own and cook it different ways than chicken also. So that's how we use the meat. But I don't know. I couldn't eat rabbit more than a few times a week. And we did. We ate the hell out of it for sure. I think that came a lot from wild rabbit too. Hunting, like if you were in a survival situation and the only thing you could find was rabbit, you're not going to do so hot because you're not going to get much fat from them. And that's the dig on the rabbit starvation. So Anyway, if you guys got any more questions, I'm happy to answer them here. I can stay around a few more minutes, but I should probably get rolling. I got some things to do. I got my Raspberry Pi yesterday. I got it all put together. Got it ready to go. So we're going to be doing some playing with that today. Hopefully get the live stream set up. I got a bunch of products that need more videos. I recorded some yesterday. I got to edit some video. If you guys want to check that out, you can check it out at my Amazon storefront, amazon.com/shop/the Lots Project. Check that out. Go over and follow it for sure. I haven't put that note in the video description down there yet. I really, really, really should. I need to overhaul my show notes and everything. So Jim, I love it. Jim says, I wish Morgan Spurlock would do 30 days of rabbit. I wish Morgan Spurlock would do 30 days of not eating and see what happened. Maybe he wouldn't make it. Why are we going to risk it giving him protein by eating the rabbit? That guy's a tool. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Amazon.com/shop/the Lots Project. You can also find all my stuff at thelotsproject.com. All my information, links, social links, all of that are across the top. And you can also find pages with recommended products, discount codes, recommended companies, partner companies, all sorts of show notes and different pages there. Comfrey-roots.com. If you're going to raise rabbits, you might as well grow comfrey. If you're going to have a farm, you're going to have any property at all, you might as well grow comfrey. It's a great ornamental to look at, but it's also got plenty of medicinal value and can be a side hustle too. Comfrey-roots.com. Grab your Comfrey Roots today. Other than that, I think it's Independence Day. I'm going to get out of here. Wife is off for the next 4 days. I'm going to spend some time with her. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll do Friday's show, but definitely some Corey time in the next few days with her having an extended time off from work. Have a great day, guys. If you're off of work, if you're listening to this later, if you're doing whatever, think about Independence Day. Think about what it means and maybe what you're doing. Maybe think about all the distractions keeping you from being independent, all the things that are fed to you and you see on a daily basis. Do better. Do it for yourself. We don't need to fight for everybody to be independent if everybody fights to be independent on their own. We can help each other. We can help each other along the way. We can inspire each other and teach each other, but you have to do it for yourself first. You have to do it for yourself. So anyway, you guys have a great day. Enjoy your July 4th. I hope everybody comes back with all their fingers and toes and takes plenty. Oh, be sure you take plenty of fireworks videos and post them up online because everybody enjoys seeing crappy videos of crappy fireworks. So have a great day, guys. Enjoy your 4th of July. We'll talk to you later.